So what are the pros and cons of this leadership model? Let's start with some of the strengths. Some of the strengths about this model is that it's very leader-oriented. The way I'd like to kind of point this out is that it's no longer focused on specific traits that you may or may not possess. Instead, it's focused on skills and observable proficiencies that makes it more accessible to everyone. And the reason I mention the accessibility is because these skills are leadership that pretty much you can develop within your team. As a matter of fact, we could say that this kind of leadership model provides an effective map for developing that leadership. And then one final strength of the model is that it provides a clear structure for the leadership education development. This is the model that's currently being used almost exclusively within the ranks of leadership education, leadership development. They look at skills more so than they look at traits. Now, having said that, what's the downside? Well, one of the downsides about this model is that sometimes it goes beyond the scope of just leadership. You start getting into areas like motivation or conflict resolution, critical thinking, anywhere you can apply a skills paradigm to the process. You can almost take this skills-related leadership modality and apply it there. That becomes a challenge. It's not focused, I guess is another way of putting that. The other thing is that it's not very predictive. We can see skills that one person actually possesses, but we can't necessarily see a new individual within a company and figure out that that individual will be good at the leadership model. Finally, and I think this is my biggest problem, my biggest challenge with this particular leadership model is that it claims to be specifically related to skills. I'm going to be focused strictly on the skills that a leader would possess. But then it starts off by talking about things like motivation and other aspects of leader that would almost indicate traits, cognitive ability, emotional intelligence. Is that something that's a skill? Of course, the book we're reading currently would suggest it is, but initially, personality traits that make you agreeable or less agreeable. This goes almost right back to where we started, where we talked about trait leadership as opposed to skill leadership. So to me, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, and I would almost look at it more as a hybrid, not strictly related to skills, but instead related maybe to some traits, and then, of course, the output of how those skills present themselves